You want to vote? Guess you know how to log out. Oh, yeah, yep, right there. There you go. Okay. What's going on here? I have Wi-Fi.
Sometimes you need to come off the Wi-Fi.
You think
You want a
so?
phone charger?
Oh, we're muted.
Here we go.
No, Kristen.
What?
So we okay?
Oh,
Time unmuting.
oh, you'll just have to.
No,
I am muted.
All right, calling the meeting to order. And do the roll call first. So we have John Parsons. Here. Nora Bucko. Here. We have John Sasso.
Present.
Mark Doxer. Simi.
Here.
Michael Colton. And John Will present. Okay, first item on the agenda is discuss most recent DHNA presentations week. So, good luck to that.
So if I could, so related to that, one of the things that we're hoping to do is to be able to have a table at town meeting to share the presentation.
right, sure.
And the moderator is okay with that. We just need to check with the schools to make sure and organize that with the custodian. But from the moderator's point of view, as long as we're outside the room, it's fine.
Okay. So who's going to, what materials, refresh my memories for what materials we're gonna have there? The presentation from the COA?
So presentation from.
There, no? No, not the video, but didn't they have a hard copy of that?
I thought it was gonna be to show the three different full-size
Okay.
architectural drawings. We could have the however many pages that are in the warrant book. And we could talk to, could have people kind of man the table, answer questions. That was thinking.
And what's like the time? What happens?
So probably get there at 7 o'clock, starting on Thursday, the
24?
24th of April. Stay for a week or so.
It goes late.
NFL draft.
No, I think probably start 7 to 7:30 maybe, at the first two meetings, maybe. Good idea. Something like that.
Oh, the beginning.
7 to
Yes.
7:30 Thursday and then the following Monday. Which is what, the 27th,
The 25th and the 29th.
29th, thank you. 25th and 29th.
As far as getting those materials, copies of. So it's just gonna, no, there won't need to be multiple copies, just have to set the one set of designs. For each, and you said
Full size.
full size, and a copy of what's already gonna be in the packet, but which. Well, the half
Talk
people
from.
probably haven't
Yeah, probably have looked at it.
looked at.
COA participants.
I think it'd be great, yeah, absolutely. It'd be great to have a few people manning the tables. It'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
check the dates, but sounds like a very reasonable thing.
Yeah, that could be awesome.
And how about from the retail side? People,
Yeah, I could do it. But I don't have access to a packet. I'm not town.
oh no, but well, we're gonna have a separate,
I think maybe what we could do is, so we actually produced it, right? We finished it and sent it to the packet, so maybe, Jenna, we could ask you to make, half a dozen copies of it.
Yep, that works for me.
We put together.
Chris is messaging me that, it can't be heard. So,
Can't be heard.
yeah, from this room. Can people hear us on Zoom? If you can you take yourself off mute and tell us you can hear us?
I can hear everyone okay.
Oh,
I can hear
okay,
you.
okay, wonderful, thank you. Maybe it's just something going on with Chris. Thanks so much.
I have one more topic too.
Sure.
Also related to the PHNA presentation was to get to the permanent building committee. I've reached out and talked to the chair tonight and we're gonna connect them with the presentation stuff that's already on the town website. So they can look at it and talk about getting it onto the next meeting. Date of the next meeting, but it'd be great to have Joel present at the next meeting of permanent building.
one thing that struck me is that. When they're talking about not having enough space at Pleasant Street, things that would be omitted. I was wondering how that, was there any input from people to decide which things were, because like they had the social area, which we had identified as a priority, as one of the things that would be eliminated. As well as it looked like the workout area.
So I think
Pardon me?
one of the goals at this point is that this is really site selection. So it's kind of, let's call it footprint of building.
Right, that's why I didn't make a big deal of
Yeah.
it, but I was just wondering, so they. Was there a thought process went into that, or he just was looking at removing X number of square feet? Is that more what it was, and then the prioritization would happen?
So let's take the second part.
Okay,
The second part is that later, Once a site is selected, then the process talks about all the interior space and how to use it. And where the priorities are and sizes, things like that. That's all part of the kind of getting to the drawings that they would do next. So that's, should be less of a concern at the moment. It's not really a site issue. You know, I guess the only issue you could have would be how much space there is
Well,
in terms of the.
So to me, it is a site issue.
Yeah, well, but when you say
Yes.
social space, then I think that moves it to the later discussion. The earlier discussion is how much total space is there that can be allocated.
Can you really split them apart like that though?
I think you have to.
Well, it's,
Because otherwise, you're gonna end up trying to do that with 3 buildings. Then you're gonna go and pick one, and then it's all gonna change again.
well, it seemed like, no, it was only an issue for that one building.
Yeah.
You didn't have anything in
The other
there.
two are identical.
Yeah,
two are
right.
identical.
Yes.
I thought that the complication of the Pleasant Street building was what exactly were they sizing and pricing and all that stuff, so that there's the extension off the Great Road, which may or may not be possible, and then whether you have the kitchen extension off that side, or do you need to reduce the size of that? And then I wasn't sure, when they did the costing, they include that stuff, or
He said no. Somebody asked,
I did ask him and he
Right.
said no, and then I said, why are we showing all this stuff?
I was
That's
surprised when he said no to you, yeah.
So,
The
and I
bump
have not, I
out, the
didn't
bump out
follow
was
up.
not included.
Right, the bump out was not included.
Bump out was not.
That's a key part.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
of that.
And then he did put that at the end, like how much it would be for the bump out.
Right.
Right.
And I have not gone back to it, I confess that. I didn't go back to that, to sort out exactly which, but that is, you know, if you don't have the bump out and you don't do the kitchen in a certain way, then spaces elsewhere, and I think he just said, oh, we're, this space don't fit. And I think he was doing square feet, eliminating square feet
Right.
rather than
Yes,
saying this room is not.
right. I wish he had. I wish he had just done the square feet
yeah.
and not identify specific areas. That's, you know.
But that's where I was going, and
Yeah.
and then I realized that there was more detail.
Yes.
There hasn't been any decision yet to eliminate social space, has there?
No.
We already need the building.
Just, that's fine, just making sure I didn't like miss a whole.
Shovels in the ground.
Yeah,
So in my,
It's
just so you
just
know,
that-
in my opinion, the social space is probably the most important.
I agree totally. Okay, thanks. So you're talking about when they did the Pleasant Street one, they said this is what would be in it, but what would have.
Right, these three
the space
things would be out,
and
right.
yeah, okay, but it wasn't a decision, it was just saying, if you did this.
No, and I
that's
kind of like
Okay,
was talking myself through it that night and saying, well, that's for another decision. But he put those up there. I wish he hadn't.
yeah,
So I'm looking at what I think is the cost breakout. And then it goes through and it talks about the 3 sites. It says cost for without pickleball, cost without gym, cost for equalized program area without gym. Then it has a list of alternate costs. And one of them is 1,800 square feet additional space. The second is 4,600 additional space. And it's cost of gym track included at Oakland and Simons, cost at pickleball, cost for parking garage and Pleasant. Those are all separate line items below the estimates.
Yeah, there was that other piece, which was if you don't have the gym.
Right.
There's an additional space piece that translates into the building side. So that's actually, and I think that's an important thing to highlight because it's an attempt to, I think, as you said, they use the word equalize space, so. I think Mark is right, the perspective is we're really looking at footprint and we're looking at overall space. The purpose of showing the details is really to make sure people believe, quite frankly, right? That's really it, that believe that we can actually get everything in there and fit it, but exactly how it gets structured and organized in there, I think that is definitely a phase 3 design piece. But I do think it's important that within those options that we are a bit more specific about which of these are we really recommending to move forward with, because they do have different implications at that site for space.
And if see, I thought the end result is, I had expressed myself before the meeting on this, is that even with all the gym space, when you take it out of all three, and then it'll allow some space, Pleasant Street, some flexibility there, that it's still, the total number of square feet available was not the same. It was the same because the buildings are the same at Oakland Road and Simons, but not at Pleasant Street. That was my recollection.
Yeah, and I think Pleasant Street might be a hair smaller to the gym.
Yep.
Yeah, so that could have been,
So to be clear, there is cost for build out without pickleball. Pleasant Street would then have 20,000 square feet, the other two sites 26,300. If you take the gym out, so it's now cost for equalized program area without gym, they're identical, 18,100.
If I remember correctly, think he had the number incorrect for square footage.
Yes, it's 23,600, not 26,600.
Right.
John, you got a question over there?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And didn't one, I didn't bring the
Didn't check
jacket
it.
with me tonight, I'm sorry, but
Check it.
didn't one of them, I thought in the last round I saw, had the kitchen actually fall below the minimum?
Yeah.
And so that would be an example of the site doesn't support what we
That was
want.
Pleasant Street, I'm pretty sure that was Pleasant Street.
Okay, just FYI.
Even in the new design, the kitchen was too small.
Only in Pleasant Street. FYI, at the Board of Health 3-hour, what do we need to do for health going forward meeting this afternoon? We talked a lot about the commercial kitchen and being able to support large group dining. Tremendous interest in that. So you'll be hearing more about it. Let's not go chiseling down that commercial kitchen.
Now,
Yeah, Jenna was there.
is this the time to talk about the issue of the gym? Those cost wise, I mean, so to equalize the design, you should come out at all three. But price wise, for almost the same price, you could have the gym at two of the locations that it would cost you without the gym. It's Pleasant Street. Am I, okay,
Yeah, it's the equalized cost at Pleasant Street estimate here is 26.1. And the other two sites with the gym is 27.7. So it's still a difference of $1.6 million.
yeah, and then the gym at Simons Wood, Oakland would have the walking track and Pleasant Street wouldn't.
yes, ma'am.
And I haven't had a chance to look at the detailed report on the costing, but, and I think he mentioned this, did he factor in the revenue that we'd received from selling or renting?
No,
So
We couldn't, because that's kind of like, that's.
go to Zillow and get a number.
No.
It would come off of it.
No, but that's an important point, I think, that would be something.
right,
Right, the net cost would be less than for Pleasant Street because something will come.
yeah.
Well, the other thing too is if it weren't at Pleasant Street without, you wouldn't have the cost of a temporary location
Right?
Right.
And
and the dislocation.
And I think
Alright.
that, so to your point, if it's at a different location,
mhm,
then the fact of the matter is now Pleasant Street is quote unquote available
mhm.
for town use for whatever might go forward, which could be renting it out, it could be using it for other things, whatever the choice. However, that's a big difference versus not having it available, right? In other words, suddenly there's a new building available. We move somewhere else,
Yeah,
there's a new building,
Yeah.
there's an existing building available
Right.
for different things.
right.
Exactly. If you stay at Pleasant Street, that's not the case.
That's true.
And I think that's the
And-
highlight, as
and you
opposed to how many dollars does it mean? I'm not sure you can say dollars necessarily. You can say usage in different ways.
And you have to go someplace else for a couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you could put it in as a holding place. The net number would be, I believe, significantly less if we were to move and have sell or rent Pleasant Street. By how much, who knows? But you could just put a big asterisk.
Yeah.
It will be less because or something, because I
Yeah,
think it
and
will.
and I'm just suggesting that even if you didn't sell or
Yeah.
rent or whatever,
Yeah,
you suddenly have another municipal facility that
Right.
could do lots of different things potentially,
Right.
whether it gets real rent
Right,
or sales value
right,
or something else.
right,
It's a tremendous difference, tremendous advantage that needs to be factored in.
right. And it's not, if you did, it would be net in terms of just the Pleasant Street
Right.
Center less.
But I do believe
I
that
think
the,
it's worth making that obvious.
agreed. I
Okay,
believe
okay.
that the estimated cost for Pleasant Street Center, however, do include the notion of moving
Right, I
and
saw
having a
that. I
temporary
saw that.
facility to use.
We do.
Yeah.
I think I saw that. It's just.
And that's part of the difference, but
Yeah,
not a
no,
big part.
okay. Big fat asterisk. We don't know what it would be, but potential offsetting of significant dollars, something.
A big fat asterisk.
It was good that they included the utilities and things you would need at the other sites. That was built into the
Right.
cost.
That's all in the
That's
cost.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah, so we have the,
Yeah, and
Really
if I could just add, I think that there'll be great value with the permanent building committee having a chance to review this and make recommendations, comments prior to kind of a decision on, hey, this is the place. But John, if we could just, I think it's important to talk more about the issue of the gym in lots of different ways. One of them, the cost. The second is, you know, what is the opportunity that opens up? First for senior activities and also for other activities that can go beyond that. That's a big opportunity. We also talked, I think, at the last discussion about coordinating more with different groups in town, rec schools. SWEC made their recommendations from their meeting. It was Monday night or Tuesday night? Bob, was it Monday night or Tuesday night for SWEC?
Monday?
Monday night, thank you.
in the paper today.
In the paper today,
Yeah,
so they've come up with 4 thoughts that they're gonna share with the select board, I think on Tuesday night next week. One of them is a slash Cal Center for Active Living. That was one of the 4.
Well, they had every possibility. So in other words, they didn't really pare down. In fact, I think there might have been 6, but the 6th one was everything. Do, you know, that a private partnership maybe for a, you know, facility, there was open space for different activities. I think the pickleball was another, you know, one that they had, I forget what they, but yeah, so they pretty much, most of the things that people had highlighted in this survey.
Yep.
They, you know, they haven't taken it to the stage yet, I don't think they will, of saying, you know, it should be this as opposed to that, right? I mean, this is.
I don't remember their exact charter, but I thought their charter would come back to the select board with some thoughts. I don't know that it was one thought. I think it was some thought.
Right, because it's a 30-page report. Put a lot into it. Are there any? Okay. Anything else on that? On the presentation?
Well,
Yep.
I don't know, this is. I hesitate to mention this, but one of the things I would have liked from BHSA is, you know, they talk about that the butters and the properties on both sides. But one of my big concerns with the gym or even the building extension out is the abutter down the hill on Parker, is it Parker Street?
Goes down, yeah.
Around the other side.
And so that you end up with the lowest level being the parking garage and a parking garage above it, and then a gym above that. And you end up with a very tall building next to that house that's there. And so they're talking about Zillow. I don't know what that property costs. But if that, buying that property would solve some of the parking problems there, reduce the need for this 2-level parking garage, that would have been.
I thought about that in Northland Road too, that one person was kind of like surrounded.
I'm not so concerned about that.
Oh, okay.
No, because they're far enough away. They're not having a big tall building.
Oh, yes, no, but it was, yeah.
But that's one of the concerns, and you're gonna have your abutters meeting in a couple weeks. You find out how much would it cost to buy your house. Oh, they'd love to hear that. No, I don't, I don't know if we wanna
I
go
already heard
there.
from the one resident on Simon's Way. And he seemed very receptive to something going down there, didn't seem opposed at the moment. So that was a positive, very positive conversation. And I did just receive an email from someone, I think about the Oakland Road location. So people are calling, and I think people are also reaching out to the select board with their comments I've been hearing too.
That's good.
So we're getting a lot of positive and I'm sure negative. I haven't heard anything negative yet.
Well, I think most of it so far has been asking for information too. So they may have a
Yes.
flavor in one direction or another, but
Sure,
I think a lot of it too is asking for more information.
sure.
What's going on, how, for example, there, Oakland Road has questions about blasting or areas exactly that would be used. Some of that.
So Michael, one of the things I would say is that I agree, they didn't really go into great detail. I know that, for example, they talked about, when you start tearing down the trees on that site in particular, you're gonna lose some of the natural boundaries between that site and various abutters. I do definitely think it's more of a detailed site plan issue. My experience on CPDC is like, they're gonna come up with issues about lighting in terms of how that is, like, cause you have a parking lot, and then, what sort of vegetation and that natural buffers that can be retained. So, I mean, that in and of itself is something that has to be addressed in whatever site. I do think the Pleasant Street site, you don't need an architectural drawing to see kind of what that's gonna look like. I mean, there's not much you can do about it you can make it look pretty, but it is gonna be an X foot high wall on the side right next to the one side of the butter there. And, I think there's very little that you're gonna be able to do, if that perhaps was the thing, if that was the option that the people wanted. It's a tough sell, in my opinion, from that standpoint. But I do think the details of those issues are much more site specific. But I do think it's important to recognize that is an important criteria to recognize that there are abutters especially on those two sites, that have to be addressed, and I've heard some feedback as well, both positive, and I do think it's a lot of questions. I do think that is true. So I don't think we're going to get away from trying to address that when it comes to the design of any of these sites, quite frankly.
What was some of the feedback? You said it was positive. Most of it would be negative, the butters, but what did you hear?
Well, so some of the same things we've talked about, having something downtown on the Pleasant Street side, I think is still one of the biggest positives. I don't think anybody has said anything different. I haven't actually heard anything from a negative side on the detailed abutter side. But my personal opinion is that that's a huge building to put up against somebody else's property. I certainly wouldn't want that there myself, but that's just, my opinion. As far as Oakland Road, I think the pieces that I've heard back are, there is a lot of things going on in that one area. So it is kind of good to have kind of like almost a
Campus.
yeah, kind of like a campus approach there. But I've certainly heard, some negatives about the neighborhood, and then, the water tower on the other side and all the other issues that have gone on. So I think there's a lot of questions about that. So whether or not any of those will make sense, I can't answer that, but that's why we're gonna have to consider it at least as part of our decision criteria, or from a recommendation standpoint. Excuse me.
Well, yes.
So I wanted to, if I could come back to the gym for a moment. So I think that the opportunity for having the gym is tremendous. That it will serve the senior community very, very well. It will also have other opportunities for use, which serves the broader community for those things as well. Walking track, I think, is, that's all year round. Could be fantastic. I just think that's such a huge benefit to doing to having that as part of what we're doing here. And it's a bit of a gap if we don't, for the senior community and more broadly. So I am very much in favor of having the gym there. I spoke with someone tonight about intergenerational opportunities. And again, the big benefit of being able to do that would be that if the seniors are there and then bring in other generations, other audiences at the same time, that allows that to really happen. Trying to think about it the other way, here's a gym, let's bring in a bunch of seniors for a while.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it is really different and less attractive and less likely to succeed. And so I love the intergenerational aspects of it. I love the facility aspects of it. I think it's great. I love the idea.
Okay, Caroline, I have a question to you.
Things I heard also though, where there were a lot of questions about the flooring. I'm not opposed to a gym, gyms are not. But I'm not ready to sacrifice what the seniors need if that's what it means. There were questions about the flooring of the gym, that it sounded like different flooring is needed for the kinds of exercises that seniors need. And that was sort of like, well, that could be in the, whatever we're calling the room in the plans. I also heard discussion about can the gym be effectively subdivided for programs, and the answer I heard, I could have misheard, was that yes, but it's not gonna be soundproof like you'd really like. So I'm all for a gym, but not at the expense of extra program room for seniors and the flooring we need for senior level exercising, dancing, whatever else they may want to do. So the balancing.
I'm not sure what you're saying there. Was that in favor of the gym, but one that was focused on the needs of seniors? Is that what you're saying? Or were you saying you have questions about? the
It's
gym?
in
I'm not sure.
favor of a gym. I like the walking track. I hear lots of people saying that's great, but and this is me personally, there's no time to take a vote from the COA, but what I heard at the meeting was concern that we might not end up with some of the priority things we've been asking for, which is exercise space that has the proper flooring for senior exercising. If having the gym means giving that up, then I don't think the gym prioritizes senior
Well, that's
needs.
what I'm confused. Why would you think that would mean giving that up?
And just in terms of square footage, the room for the exercise is much smaller than the gym. So if we're thinking, oh, we could go do that in the gym, the answer is maybe not.
So there is a fitness room that would have a floor that is spring loaded
Right.
and everything else.
But it's a lot smaller than the space
It
we're
is a
talking
lot
about in
smaller.
the gym.
Can't do
But
that.
they were
Without the
talking-
gym, you won't be able to have it.
Right, you
You'll
won't
have a
have,
bigger
without the gym, you won't have the
Which
space.
Which space?
So there's a fitness room set up to do some of the things. That's kind of designed to hold
Yeah,
X people.
right.
Without the gym, it holds X. With the gym, it holds X. But you'd have the benefit of the gym that could have much bigger activities also.
Right, in other words, there was nothing in the plans that said, oh, without the gym, then we add space.
Right.
To the basic plan. That's not,
One of the very early ones actually had 10 rooms in it.
right, but that's not what,
Yeah, we're getting to the inside again.
All right.
So the space isn't gonna change. The
square
space with the
footage.
gym, the difference in space by adding the gym is the space of the gym. It's a gym. Yeah. So in other words, if you take it out, you take the gym out, you drop by however many square feet the gym was. Put it in, you add as many square feet as there were in the gym. It's not really
I have
deciding
to
be
take your
here
word
and be
for it.
there.
I'm remembering a different picture, but I could be remembering wrong. I grant you.
The only caveat to that though is the Pleasant Street option 1, option 2 issue.
Yes.
So
yes.
if you decide that you want option 1 of Pleasant Street with the gym, you by default will limit the
Yes.
space of the.
so that's.
If you do option 2 and you take the gym out, you give yourself an opportunity to regain some of that. And actually, if you look at that option 2, I think there's a 1,000-foot fitness room in place of the gym effectively.
Right.
So,
That's what I'm remembering.
Okay, so that's only.
That was a-
So, I mean, my one comment on that is that there are a lot of seniors who would really benefit from a gym.
900 feet per
That
square.
you could use during the day. And, one experience is the AmeriCall Center over in Wakefield. It's used from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, roughly. Mostly by seniors. Very in there every day playing pickleball.
Pickleball will do well.
That's a senior
I'm
activity.
not putting pickleball down. I brought it up at the Board of Health. You'd be proud of me. No one went 2.5 hours without a word about pickleball. I actually threw it in.
So
That's
the-
true.
I completely agree with you that we have to think about the various spaces in it. But a gym has, lots of uses. Yeah, you can play pickleball there, basketball. You can have dances, you can do all sorts of stuff in there. Zumba and everything else. There might be other places, other floor treatments and other things that are better for Zumba or for, kickboxing or all the other things that you can do. Wrestling, yeah. I don't know about that, Mark.
I'm just saying there's a trade-off. It's not just
Yeah,
plus
and,
gym and no negative. There's a trade-off.
And,
Only a Pleasant Street.
Pardon me?
Only a Pleasant Street.
Yes, only.
And you're paying for that in a higher cost.
Except we're
Street.
gonna sell buildings, so it's gonna come
We-
back.
we don't-
So
but that-
that's a
you
different,
don't-
separate
And
decision.
this
That's
town
a
does not sell
different thing.
anything else again, it's got two places to work with right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're looking to buy buildings.
one of the things I would say about the benefit of moving out of Pleasant Street, that reduces the cost of Oakland Road or Simons. It doesn't reduce the cost of Pleasant Street. It adds to the price of Pleasant Street. Because you now have, you at Oakland or Simons, you have this new asset that the town has. If you stay at Pleasant Street, you don't have any new assets.
I understand.
So, yeah,
I'm not advocating
Okay,
anything. I
so
just wanna
you-
understand the
so-
map and the trade-offs.
So I'm sorry, John, I'm just a little confused here. So I mean, to Marilyn's point, it's nice that we all make sure we understand. And I think that's part of the purpose, but
Yes.
I think the goal is like, so where do we go from here? What are the next steps so I just want to make sure I'm
No, because that's why, when we get to the second item, but I didn't know whether I was gonna raise it now. In other words, do we even want to come out with Jim or no Jim? Are we going to come out at the end of the day with a recommendation as recount? And I'm not saying one way or the other whether we should,
Right.
but that's what I'm looking for. Do we think that that's something that recount should weigh in on?
So, personal opinion.
No, that's.
Personal opinion. And I've said this all along. The collective group needs to stand united in front of the select board and make a recommendation.
Okay.
That recommendation had better dot all the i's and cross all the t's and say, we want this with this gym, with this floor, whatever the things are that we find critical that we want. That's what I believe we need to put in front of the select board. Now, with the rationale of, trade-offs and all the things that we've looked at as background, but we need a common recommendation. I think the exercise that we're gonna go through to do rankings and stuff may not get us all the way there, but I think it's gonna get us to a point where a couple things are gonna bubble up, and then we're gonna from there start to tear down the pieces that, make sense or don't make sense.
So that was my second question. Oh,
How did you get there?
No, is that, all right, we're gonna fill it out. But the I would think that the sum of the parts is greater than, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so that I don't want the individual reports then just being tallied up and saying, this is recalc's recommendation. I want us to be able to step back and say, look at that,
Yes.
starter, and discuss why we said, we weighted this way as opposed to
I
that.
think, again, I'm forecasting a little bit here, but I think we all need to do this anyhow. Regardless. We-
Oh, yes.
we need to-
Oh, no, I'm not saying not do it.
And when-
I've already done it for myself, so I have some idea where,
I've deliberately not done it.
okay.
But I mean, I've kind of done it in some respects, but I deliberately have not physically done it. But I think then we need to look at that information and then have have that conversation with this information in front of us for folks to kind of advocate, at that point, advocate, explain, rationalize, justify, to bubble up the pieces that we think make sense. We're then gonna have to reconcile that with the other stakeholders in the process, COA being one of them, and others, to kind of get to that recommendation. And I think that's what I know Nancy had really pushed for. We need to make this process, abutters, everybody, we need to kind of make that a process there where everybody has a voice, and that recommendation reflects as best as we can the priorities of the community, and the other pieces that we've gone through up to now.
Taking it one step further then, and we haven't settled, discussion, but the next step to me would be then, do we come up with one recommendation between Cal and COA? Would that be a desirable goal? Are we?
Standalone.
I would think that would make it very, we don't really want to be saying that because
I'm not so sure that would work so well.
I think it would. You
Well,
guys.
no, don't expect.
I mean, I've already told
Johnson both.
COA that, since I'm their representative to this group, that I will, then ultimately have to vote on something, we'll vote what the Council on Aging wants. And I know how strongly the Council on Aging wants a senior center. I'll say it again, a senior center. And I'm not so sure that I might be in disagreement with them, but will put forth their feelings, their recommendation. And I'm not so sure Council on Aging would ever budge to wanting a combined center.
At the expense of a gym and walking track.
Well, I mean, there's still so many factors,
Pleasant Street.
I'm not sure there are.
What exactly does that mean to, by the COA? Because right now, it would deliberately change the name to the Pleasant Street Center. Technically, we don't have a senior center.
Correct.
And most communities are moving in that direction. So what does it mean? Does that mean they don't want any of their activities? Listen, so Marilyn shaking her head, no. But you, like
Even the
what you
current,
stated seemed to be,
even the current Pleasant Street Center is what is dual use today.
Exactly.
right, so what,
What I'm saying is, I think the majority there want a senior center. And I mean, if we went with Pleasant Street, that would be a senior center. It would not be a community center.
There's a.
Why?
why would you say that?
We have to go through this again, yeah.
I don't understand that. I'm really trying to understand this.
Rachel said that's where it came from.
It almost seems to me like what that was brought out at the last meeting, that that Pleasant Street would be a senior center.
So can I interject here for a minute? So we've had a couple of conversations around this, and I want to try to clear the air and get everybody here at least on the same page. So this group, I'll speak for myself. I think this group has been chartered to come up with the Reading Center for Active Living. And I think, just to jump to the heart of the matter, the issue from COA, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a bit about access and control. And that we want to make sure we meet the senior needs. Absolutely. That was the first recommendation out of the results of our thing. So nobody's arguing that at all. Having said that, we have a challenge. I've advocated for this process for a long time. We want this to happen. And my personal opinion, this group's opinion, is to do that, we want this to be a bit more community oriented and focused and give it a little bit broader scope. And so by doing that, we've called it the Reading Center for Active Living. Yes, it's got a fair amount of focus on 60+ needs, which is what we've talked about. But at the same time, we do want to advocate and use the word advertise that this isn't just a senior center, that it does actually extend beyond that. So I'll say assuade, allay, assure, COA, the seniors in this community, the question is, who's going to manage access and control? We talked about what pieces are dedicated, what pieces are not dedicated. So first and foremost, that's a town issue. We can't decide that, right? That's not our role to make it that decision. But from the perspective of our recommendations, the perspective is to give the seniors that level of comfort. That should be elder services. It should be a building that elder services is responsible for and manages and puts forth. If you do that, then I think the answer is it makes it a little bit more palatable, because we still want what we want. We want a building that is able to do more than that. We did actually hear the question, well, if it's just Pleasant Street, then it's only a senior center. No, that's not the way we've reviewed it. And if we come up with a center that's the same size as the other ones, then it doesn't really hold water. Yes, it's on a much more constrained site and there are other issues, absolutely, but it doesn't limit its applicability as a senior center, at least in my mind. So that's kind of where our heads have been at, or at least my head's been at. I've had a couple conversations around this, and I think that's how we have to look at this, is that this is in fact a Reading Center for Active Living. It is more than a senior center, but it does have to have the priorities of focus. And how do we assure folks of that case? We can make a recommendation. We
We
can't,
already have, we're on record.
right, we can't force the.
Still, it's up to the town to force.
Right, right, exactly. And I guess that's the point, that's as far as we can take it.
Right.
I certainly would hope COA understands that. I think we've tried to have that communication with COA about that. And if we need to reset that and have another, when we have our next fall, we will have another joint COA recalc meeting. We can go through this again with them. But I really think if we don't do that, if we don't sit here and say the same things, it's not, I don't care. It won't even get past town meeting. Forget about the voters. So I'm very confident that we have to be aligned 100% on what we're.
Chris, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I do think, just two things. I do think Recalc and COA can come together, especially after more recently as we were getting more information. I think, I think about a month ago, it was a little hit and miss, but we also didn't have the details that we have right now. So I do think COA is, open, a little bit more open to a community type center, but making sure we have good space for older adults, seniors. But I think we can both come together, and I can see COA coming together to agree on being, a senior center, but with good community space too. So
I'm just confused why we're even talking about this. We've been talking about
Yeah.
this so long that this is what it is.
yeah,
And now to be hit with a curveball saying that the COA is not gonna do it unless it's a complete senior center.
I don't say that's definitely.
but I think COA
can
will.
also say that COA may not come around, but I still could see a bone of contention.
Sure, it's gonna be a lot of.
If I can speak, so couple things. Can I make a very strong suggestion? This is a center for active living. We need to take the other two words out of our vocabulary because we confuse each other with them, right? They mean something. When the words community center come together, the control issue explodes.
Right.
When we say senior center, we get the kind of the gnarly kind of, I'm not sure that's what I want. And the Pleasant Street Center name is an example of that. Those are words we're not going to use. So let's stop using them. It's a center for active living. That's what it's got to be. And to get the town to consider supporting $28 million, town meeting, the voters.
Yep.
We have to be together, and it has to serve the needs, which are first and foremost for the 60+ community and other things that I think are possible as a result of that.
Yes.
The piece for me that gets me tangled, and we've talked about this, and control is one way of handling it, is that an issue now is that the building is becoming too small for the senior population. And some of it's just language on the diagrams. I think that 3 rooms are dedicated, because we currently, and if you take any Pleasantries, you can count this, Mark, there are as many as 5 simultaneous things going on in different rooms there. And if we've only got 3 dedicated rooms, it just raises a flag saying, are we gonna have even as much as we do now? And there are ways of handling it through control. But I think that wording and that notion of dedicated is causing some of this problem because.
That's
as we-
another word that has to disappear.
Yes, yes,
It has to-
and as we said, we currently do share those rooms, they're not, they're the senior centers, but we do share them with.
I think
The
there could be
town
times when there are 8 activities, 8 programs
Yeah.
going on for seniors, if we have the appropriate space to do that.
But it gets to the priority thing for seniors.
I think we're
And the
actually
management.
aligned on that.
I think,
don't
I think
that
we,
we're
I
actually
think we see a
arguing.
vision of it can work, but it's not all been communicated effectively. The Council on Aging came up with a list, which I agree are mostly about the building of things that are important about the building, which can be worked out at the next stage. It's just getting that comfort level that, yes, if we want 6 things to run at once and there physically is space in the building, it's that we get first right of refusal to the space,
Well, I
I guess,
think-
nothing else.
John hit it, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a control issue, and I think that can be worked out.
I agree,
Because I think
but I'm just.
nobody said anything differently
Yeah.
as far as the priority.
But I'm just me, I'm not the whole council.
I'd much rather hear that here.
Yeah.
You know, rather than all of a sudden where did this come from?
Right.
You know, if we're before some, you know, the select board of town meeting, we're dead.
Oh, yeah.
John said, we have to, you know, say, let's get, you know, there'll be some give and take.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's hard to compare the Pleasant Street Center with dedicated rooms right now too, and Chris, you can speak to this because you have 2 rooms downstairs that you could, well, they could qualify certainly as dedicated rooms, but you can only use them for the computer really and shine, and the pool room is the pool room. Like it's got a pool table in there. And then you have the multi-purpose room, and then upstairs you have 2 rooms, or 3 rooms, but 1 out of the 3 right now is half an office, or now 3/4, or half is an office for Janet and Anna. So really, there's not even like 5 dedicated rooms right now, even at the current center. So I think it's smart to not say, oh, we have 5 rooms now and we need 20 then. It is looking at the cumulative amount of space that's available right now and how many uses it actually serves. Because in a new space, it's gonna be even probably like triple or quadruple what you have now.
Right, for most of the day, I would say you're gonna have
Right,
exactly that. You're
Yeah.
gonna have all the space.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, in a
And
gym,
not excluding evenings.
I know.
No,
and a gym is a prime example of this, because this would be dedicated to, you know, senior use times, I mean, not sure we would check IDs, but 60 plus, or I don't know, but does that get into the exclusive use territory? It's not, it's in these diagrams, in any of the diagrams, it's not. It's gonna be an active living resource.
Well, there would be badging type stuff, so.
Yeah, so you know who's in the building.
but also
have to
because
know
there's gonna be the
that.
issue of people with disabilities of different ages. Because that's a very common thing.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But personally, I find it, in my mind, easier to think about it, not as space, but as I'm looking for assurance that a greater level of programming will be supported at the new site. I don't care who owns the space.
I think that might
think
get
we
to
could-
governance.
Yeah, it does. It
Some kind
does.
of body that's gonna actually, you know, and let's say it's a 5-person body and 3 of them seniors. You know, whatever, you know, but some kind of governance, whatever is the entity that, you know, is making decisions on utilization of spaces and time like that, God help them, you know.
Chris?
And we're
But
making that
it's-
work.
It's that kind of a, you know.
And we're
issue.
making that work now, you know,
Yes.
with rec and EHS. You know, and I think, you know, we make it work and we're in 2 completely different buildings. You know, being in the same building, I think it'll just improve that. And also, you know, not to, one other thing that I'm noticing though is with the Pleasant Street Center that I haven't heard anyone mention is I don't see enough offices for EHS recreation and all the community services in this. In these 2 diagrams, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, so maybe
The
that's
heat-
why
That,
there's
that,
confusion.
well, that might be more input from us as far as, you know, that's one of the desired thing.
But we should make sure we bring that up, is I only see on the Pleasant Street Center designs enough office space for EHS. In these two designs. So there's not office space for recreation or community services. Or,
Oh, you mean me?
veteran, yeah, you and
I'll
veteran.
get you out of the basement sooner or later.
I mean, if you look at the proposed rooms, which again, they're not final, but you've got in Oakland Road and Simmons Way, you've got 7 program rooms, a senior lounge, and a multi-purpose room that can be split, plus a conference room and all the offices. And that's aside from the gym.
Right.
If you look at Pleasant Street, equal things, again, 7 rooms, 7 program rooms, plus a conference room, plus a senior lounge, and a multi-purpose room that can be split. So I do think it's I like your word, governance of the program areas and what's your priorities. But I just,
This one?
that's what we've been driving towards, is to get those sorts of pieces in place so that it can in fact support all of these things.
I think what we need is a dialogue with the Council on Aging and rec, because you do have a mission and we have a priority and it needs to, and you might get.
You're doing a great job advocating for it too.
Yeah.
You know, Nancy and the.
But a few of us do that, but it would still need to go to a council vote, and to John's point, maybe that isn't where the whole council is, and they're not involved in these discussions, and I think, my personal thing is that I think we should be working much more closely together, and not having, you have a meeting, we have a meeting, a sub-meeting to explain how our meeting didn't match their meeting, and then we have a meeting to figure, we need more dialogue together.
Zoom every day.
Also, and I also think Pleasant Street Center with these designs, sorry, I'm going back to the designs because I know you guys are talking about the different sites, but with Pleasant Street, you know, we still have the issue like the multi-purpose space. I mean, we're still gonna have to probably take tables out and put them back, which is one of our issues right now with transitions. And also our gross motor room, we're not, I mean, we need if we don't have a gym, and even with a gym, we need a space probably closer to 1,500 square feet to handle yoga, Zumba, best exercise and everything else. You know, right now we have 1,150 square feet and it's not big enough. So, you know, we're already running into the same problems we are facing with Pleasant Street, even with the new designs. And we need to make sure, you know, if we were looking at Oakland Road or Simon's Way, that, you know, we don't have to face these same issues. Thank you. I'll stop talking now.
Yeah, so we just got a comment in the chat saying, not really sure how the meetings work. Are we just supposed to watch and observe, or can we ask questions? The answer is you can raise your hand.
Yes, you can ask
If you wanna
questions.
come. So I just told that person that if they would like to speak, they can. So if you want to speak, that's fine. You can raise your hand or you could write it in the chat and I can ask for you.
Since you're already talking about me, I can't find the raise hand button, but so I
Thank
do
you.
apologize because it was a few topics ago, but I wasn't sure when I was allowed to talk. When we were talking about the costs, does that include the site work?
You didn't know who they
For-
were.
Yes,
And can you just state your name, please? I'm so
Hi,
sorry.
Anastasia De Silva. I live by the Oakland Road
Thank you.
location. I was wondering if the cost included like the site work, because I can tell you from looking out my back window that there's a lot of that at Oakland Road.
yes. Each of the quotes for the different locations included site work, any kind of infrastructure as far as, you know, water access, electricity, all utilities.
And recognizing topographical challenges.
Topographical, wetland protections.
Trees.
I'd encourage you to go,
Rocks.
I encourage you to go to the March 27th. On RCTV.
It's April. It's April 27th.
No, but.
No, but the recording for the presentation, he addressed a lot of those questions that you had.
Okay, because I had heard that they did not include the site work.
Yeah,
Who had been
that was
at that
definitely
meeting.
asked.
It's definitely asked many times.
Okay. No, it was my second question. I may have forgotten it. I'll write in the chat when I think of it. Apologies.
Actually, you went into a lot of detail about it as well, too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because there's just, given all the drama we had with the water tower and how much
Yep.
I can tell you is back there, you know, almost any site work is probably gonna be worse than whatever they told you, unless they've gone there and actually, you know, seen what, I mean, there's literally 2 ravines straight up back there that need to be, you know, accommodated for. Yeah, so.
I think there is an added contingency too in all of the,
20%, 10% and then 10%. In other words, they,
An extra
they
20.
build, yes, this is an extra 20%.
John, could I just add too, so, not to minimize that at all, very important issue. I think it's almost between 10 and 15 years ago, this site was evaluated in pretty good detail by an engineering firm when it was being considered for the
Early intervention.
early education center.
Yes.
And that included evaluations, borings, quite a few things. The engineering firm that actually did that work back then turns out to be the engineering firm that BH+A is using for their work already. So they have the benefit of some of that, well, they have the benefit of all of that information, which gives them a little bit more insight into what's going on. And when they were looking at the where to site different things on that site, that's one of the things that they looked at also. So again, not to minimize that at all.
Right, no, and and I'm trying to, you know, weigh that, and that's fair, but there was also a lot of work and research done for the water tower, and we all know how that ended up. So you can understand our hesitancy at taking that at its face value. Not that I'm sure they didn't do their job or anything, but you know, that's what I'm trying. So thank you very much.
If you have any other questions, you know, as the meeting goes on, you can just.
You got a couple others.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got 3 other people.
Okay, sure.
Mark Delaney, Carolyn, and Mike Lacy.
no one has their hands raised though, right?
They do, they all have.
They
their-
do. Can you tell me,
Oh,
do you know which one was first or anything?
This should be in the order they raised their
Okay,
hands.
can you just,
Should be. I can't,
can you
so,
indicate to me? who
yeah,
was
so
first?
Mark Delaney would be first.
Mark Delaney.
so sorry about that, folks.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. And I appreciate all the time you folks put into these things. My question, I think, is simple. I'm trying to access the slideshow that was part of the presentation. Instead of watching the whole meeting again, I'd just like to be able to access the slides that the presenter presented. Is there a way I can get at those?
Recalc site.
It is on the Recalc site, and on the left-hand side of the Recalc site, there's a link that says feasibility study, and the presentation will be right on there. I could actually probably,
I'm just gonna text it to him.
I was just gonna do that, copy and paste the link. Thank you. We could put it in the chat for you.
Awesome. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And who was next on?
Oh, you're finishing that, sorry.
That's
Mike Lacy.
So I did that, Carolyn is next on this.
Carol.
Carolyn.
Carolyn?
Carolyn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I'm a resident on Auburn Street. I'm 2 doors down from the water tower. So I know it doesn't directly maybe affect me possibly this go around. It affects a lot of my neighbors down the street. I just kind of want to reiterate too that the communication during that project was not ideal. We had blasting that was not anticipated. Obviously, as you know, or potential blasting that was anticipated. I know that didn't end up happening, but we listened to jackhammering all summer. I refurnished my attic. I have a crack in my attic from that. So we had numerous issues with the water tower over the last couple of years, and my concern is that I may be affected if, you know, Oakland Road is obviously used, and I know how the project went over and changed and the lack of communication on that. it just seems to me not the ideal site, and I'm afraid it's gonna be a redo of that whole experience, to be completely honest, and I'm not sure if this is the right committee to speak to about that. But, you know, I back up the concerns of my neighbors who are closer, to that site for those various reasons, so. I will look at the slide thing, you know, as well, but, it was a pretty bad experience overall, on my end, so.
Carolyn, can we just ask your full name, please?
Yep, it's Carolyn O'Keefe.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
I just put up the, that link in the chat, so if anybody's looking for it, the direct link to the feasibility study is there.
Thank you, Mike. And who's the, well,
So Mike Lacy is next.
Mike Lacy.
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
Good.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all your efforts. I have a question in regards to the traffic study. Has there been a traffic study conducted? Also, I'd like to point out that there are no sidewalks on Parkview and Longfellow. Has that been noted? And with the proposed location, with that being kind of a blind spot coming up over Oakland from Longfellow, has there been any consideration to how you're going to manage traffic, both during the day, high volume times, you know, during school hours, beginning of school, after school, during school events?
It was raised at that meeting, but I'm not aware that they've done any kind of detailed traffic studies yet.
So I think they said a consultant has looked at the site,
Yes.
but I think mostly from the perspective of Oakland Road, to be fair. I think that's the way they looked at it. That's my recollection of it. So I don't know that they've looked up on the Parkview side at all. The other thing that came up is that there is a smart streets grant that the town obtained that relates to that whole Oakland Road area that is all included. And I actually asked the town manager to get some more details on that from the town engineer to see what that is that we have not yet done. We actually have some money to do some work there. And then your point, Mike, is noted in terms of we need to better understand everything around there. Definitely hasn't been done in depth at this point.
And I'd just like to conclude, just to piggyback off of Stacy, not to keep bringing this up, but I also went back through the slide and tried to look for all the portion of the bid for the site work, the total site work, you know, the grading, excavation, tying in utilities, loom, all of that. And I had a hard time locating it. Maybe I can reach out to Ryan or the consultant maybe directly to get that information. Because as we all know, I live on Beacon Street, 9 Beacon Street, and I had the unfortunate pleasure of dealing with the cell tower that is still not complete. Caused, you know, it caused a lot of major inconveniences. And I don't understand more so how we're not, you know, we don't have this project under the microscope. And lastly, I mean, it's, you know, another disruption, another major disruption to our part of town, when I feel that there were better options. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the input.
That's it. Sorry, I was working on something else for a second. That's it for hands at the moment.
Okay. Anything else from the?
Maybe the presentation didn't include some of the topographic stuff. And maybe, and
Fine.
it was, but he presented it at the meeting and it's in the.
Talked about it in response to questions, but the question arose because it wasn't there, wasn't specified, you know, it didn't break it down that way. You know, so much for utilities, so, you know, it wasn't that kind of a detailed cost estimate.
Yeah, there is more of a detailed cost estimate that we can share with the abutters in our abutter meeting. Maybe that would be helpful. Oh, well, yeah, of course, and COA has it.
We just got it.
Yeah, so I thought that this group had that too previously, so that's not a problem. We can give something out in more detail. We just didn't want to give it in that initial presentation because we thought it would just add a lot of confusion because there is a lot of technical analysis in that cost estimate. So,
But as John Sasso had said earlier, this has to go through, other town committees, but, the permanent building committee is gonna be one, but also a CPDC.
Right, but I think that the points that are being raised at the moment, which the questions that are asked about, traffic and things like that, we don't have, as Mark says, a detailed traffic study.
No.
The estimates that the architects and the consultant have put together, as Mark said, in these areas have been based on work that has been done previously, as well as their own surveys. And they've had their own engineering estimates done, and we have to rely on what they've done, and they've also agreed. And I think anybody that owns a home knows that anytime you try to do something and you have an estimate, you're going to run into contingencies. And so we did ask them to put contingencies into the work, which they have. But I think in terms of the actual ultimate impacts, the details of that won't be resolved, won't be really flushed out until we get down into detailed design. And those will have to go through the review from, again, whether it's traffic or parking or lighting, or, all those pieces have to be addressed. But for now, the question still has to be where do we end up? Because we still have to come up with a site. We can't flush this out for all three. That's just not, it's not feasible for us to do that. So we have to get as much information as we can, and try to solicit feedback as well from the abutters, because they're, as they said, they're the ones that will live through the construction of this as well as the results in the end. So we need to make sure that concerns are addressed, and whether or not this is the right site is still to be determined.
I can remember when Oakland Road was first raised, I had pointed out, and I can remember when the early education center was proposed, and I was on town meeting, that we heard from some abutters then, that there was so much there on Hope, 3 schools, including the Hope High School campus, isn't that enough? And, that it just went through the water tower thing as well. I guess that's, so yes, that is definitely a consideration, the whole thing. We're just not gonna, say, downplay that at all. That's definitely a consideration.
and there's sensitivity at each of the sites, right? But it all comes down to, we only have 3 sites.
Yes, that's
So
fine.
that's the
yes.
tricky part too.
When is the abutters meeting, you said?
It'll be April 17th. We're not inviting any boards or committees to the meeting. Certainly, there was a
And
large.
this is for all 3 site abutters, is that?
Yep,
all
yep, we
together?
mailed them all a letter. And again, there's been some people who can't make the meeting, and I said that we'd be open to meeting with them on a separate day and time. The architect's also open to
Oh,
having
the
private
architect's gonna
meetings.
be there.
Yes,
Okay,
yep.
that's-
And it's here.
Yep, it'll be here in the select board room.
While we're still on the evaluations criteria form, I had pointed out before the meeting, there was an error in the latest one on number 6. Wetlands and floodplains, if you notice, it's the same for all 3 categories. I'm not impacted, I'm not impacted, I'm not impacted.
Paste error.
Yeah, instead of being moderately and, and major, that's what it should have been, moderate and major.
So, sorry, not impacted would be a high score.
Yes. Yes,
Slightly impacted would be the medium score. And highly impacted.
yeah, they had used the word moderate, but yes. So, yeah, in fact, I looked at
I
it
did-
multiple times, and then I looked at the old thing, and I said, yeah, I'm not going. for it."
That's a good catch. I didn't notice that either. Mike, did you have another question or? Maybe his hands just fell off.
You can drop all the hands. You actually can do that.
you have the control.
And I had a question about 6 foot township fixed the.
Mhm.
What are we talking about with pest control?
I know, I think that was more, in my mind, when it came up to one of the sites that was near wetlands, that there may be more of an issue. As far as, you know,
Mosquitoes? Or-
yes,
Well, it
but,
could be,
well, that's,
could be coyotes.
No, I was just curious what we meant by
that's
that.
what I was assuming,
And
because having,
rats downtown.
no, well, that could be too, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what we were talking about,
Ah,
or people, ball players.
Oh, my
Pests.
Bobby pulling that.
so, are there any,
And then I
Anything
also
else?
had a
Okay,
question
sure.
on number 8. I don't know what we're really talking about.
yeah, that's another one that I had to read over multiple times to try to figure out what exactly. Yeah,
Close enough. I've heard it.
because garage repairs, I mean, we're talking about,
I still can't share that triangle. It's giving me all sorts of triangles.
Well,
We don't need that.
well, because only one of the.
that has
three
garage
locations
repairs,
has-
right?
Yeah, has it,
So-
so it's kind of like. And insurance, maintenance, and
For these, I didn't-
that was, yeah, I mean, we don't even have enough information, I didn't think to really, I put something in there, but I didn't put much distinguishing because I couldn't distinguish. It was one of those kind of things, yes, ma'am.
That's a question I had about this whole process. I know we're just mulling around and understanding right now and trying it out, but is it assumed, I have to assume the answer is no, that we won't have detailed studies on a lot of these things to really know whether it's a 6 or a 4 or a 2. We're just taking our gut reactions on these things?
I
Well,
would say yes.
to some extent, but
Does
again,
that make sense to me?
so, no, we hired EH+A for their expertise.
Well, then why don't we just have them tell us, we think this one's a 4 and that one's a 3?
So what they did tell us at the last meeting was they went through which sites they thought had more complications in terms of like wetlands, like you're close to
Yeah.
or in, things like that. And we had a big discussion about how much do we want to become all civil engineers? You know, do we want to go to that level or what would be the appropriate level to learn? This is far from perfect.
Some of it they handle by the weighting system.
Right, and there was, so you have a basis for all of these things and how important I think those things are to the site selection might be different than how you would do it
Right.
or how John would do it or Mark.
But it's basically gut plus having heard an opinion without much detail from BHA. Okay.
Well, I would,
Maybe on that one, but I don't think.
yeah, I would just say it's a little bit, I mean,
I'm not.
I
on all
hope,
of
I
them,
hope,
not
I
all
hope for all intents and purposes, it's more than gut for the people of us
Yes.
watching and we're listening to this. I mean, you know, quantity I mean, there may be some in here that are more than
Yeah,
others,
yeah,
like
it's a-
parking quantity. Okay, we know exactly how many spaces are gonna be on each side.
It's not all of them.
So it's not all of them.
No, it's not all of them.
So I don't disagree that there are some that we might have to do a little bit more inferencing to than the others, but I think we've got information on, I mean, we could probably argue that there's information that's been presented on all of these at some level, some more than others.
Yeah.
Right.
And for the gut level, that's what the 20 points is.
Okay.
Well, that's the post, yeah.
Yeah,
after
that's
you've
that's
done
the
it.
subjective. Right. Yeah, that's
And the other question, if I can keep talking with my raised hand, is, are we evaluating this based on the assumption that something like the plans that were most recently presented are the only ones that we're thinking of?
Yes.
Okay, so we've
Yes.
eliminated Plan 2 from way back on Pleasant Street when there was option 1 and option 2. Is that
So,
correct? Or
yeah,
not? And that was back when we were being told by Rachel that that would be just a senior center. And I understand the evolution, but I want to make sure when people do this, that they know what it is they're evaluating, that's all.
I do think that's a really good question, because I actually do think we should consider both of those sites. I almost think we should do either a separate ranking or some way of differentiating between, Because they are, I mean, unless we as a group decide, nope, we're only doing option one, or only doing option two. They've both been presented and they both have different implications for what that center is gonna look like.
Yes.
So I almost think that if that is in fact the case, that we might want to do it for both, whether, because again, like I said, they do at least have some implications on some of the, obviously costs, and how much of the site can be used for different pieces based on the space requirements. So I know it's,
Yeah, I thought we were.
pose that to the group, but
To keep it equal, I thought we were rating them all without a gym. That was in my mind. That's why I asked the question earlier.
Thought it was the opposite.
So the issue
Thought the
is,
opposite.
well, because I didn't think it was,
I think that we are evaluating the equal cost, what turned out to be the equal cost alternatives.
I mean, the equal space.
No, equal cost.
oh, that's right, that's, yes.
So these
I
three.
guess,
20,000 square
showing
foot
my
Pleasant Street,
bias, because when I
Oakland
looked
Road,
at
and
it
Simon's Way with a gym.
equally, and I saw the between the garage and that gym on the Pleasant Street site, I said, that makes, to me, it was like Pleasant Street has no chance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do that.
Yeah.
Because it's too big for the.
No, but that is, isn't that the cost with the
Yeah,
gym?
this is the cost with the
With
gym.
the gym.
And so as I was viewing it, when we're evaluating things like, is there space for outdoor activities? It's in this assumption, these locations and this thing.
Yes, that
Um,
is. It was-
So
yes, there was
so
no-
I gave different scores accordingly.
I just want to be sure when the council on aging
Yeah.
does this, which will now be next Monday, we know the options are only this, and this, and yeah, we can move the rooms
Yeah.
around inside, but
So here's the comparative factors. It says Pleasant Street at 20,000, Oakland Road and Simon's Way at 26,300.
the
So
personally,
that's what was laid out.
I agree with John, we should be considering that one for, this. Council on Aging didn't sign up for saying we necessarily want a center for active living, and we haven't opposed it. We just were approached saying, we know you need a senior center, and we want to see if we can make it work in this thing, and that's where we still are.
And we need to go back just a little bit. So when Recalc was formed, it quite specifically was take care of the needs of the 60+ community as a center for active living. We then did a survey as well as a bunch of
Yeah.
research going to different centers. One of the things that came back, which was our recommendation that we brought forward to town meeting, was that there was interest in it servicing, most importantly, the 60+ community, but to have opportunities for other people as well.
And no one's.
Literally, that's what we said.
No one's disputing that, I just.
But you
think
keep
that-
on, but you seem to be doing it just twice now. We had the lengthy discussion, and then it was like we didn't have the discussion, Marilyn. You're kind of like, well, no, that's not what we signed up for. We want a senior center.
I'm not saying that we want, I'm just saying we need a bigger, more inclusive senior space. Let's take center out of this, right?
For
That was the
age
given.
60+.
For age 60+, right? And I don't think anyone has budged on that. We've got 10 years of studies that show we need that. And you approach this saying, town realizes this has been outstanding for a long time and it still is. So I don't know what the words are, and I don't care what it's called personally. I just want to know which diagrams, if any, are off the table. And going back to those original two plans of Pleasant Street Center, I think there are different opportunities depending which one you did. And when they do this form, I just want to make sure the council knows what are the options we're being asked to evaluate and what has gone off the table. Because those were on the table. And I'm not saying I even like them best, I just want to understand so that no one's thinking they're voting on this and they're actually voting on it. And your question about is the gym in or out, that's a perfect example as well of, we just need to be really clear about exactly what models are we evaluating when we do this, because otherwise we're gonna get a hodgepodge.
So the way I viewed it was we base it on one version of Pleasant Street, which is the 20,000 square foot version. And you do have the option of adding space at a cost. And we have the cost for doing it or not precisely, but an estimate. So to add the bump out is $1.5 million. To add the 4,600 square feet additional, not a gym, is $3.7 million additional.
Okay, so that slide is what we should use as our mental image of what we're evaluating when we do this.
So actually, this slide is what you should be using for your mental image. The top row.
Okay,
That's the slide you should use. And to assess, well, can't we do X? Can't we do Y?
right.
The answer is you can. I wish I could project these. I'm really sorry. This is the comparative
You
cost.
can.
This is slide 62. The top row.
Okay.
Yeah, slide 62 is what it is. It's just called comparative cost.
I
This is
felt
where
that.
it showed costs of between 27.9 for Pleasant Street, 27.8 for Oakland Road, 27.9 for Simon's Way. All pretty much the same number. And then there's another slide, the one that follows is called alternate and breakout costs. And these are, okay, if we wanted to do the bump out at Pleasant Street for 1,800 additional square feet, that's an additional 1.4 million.
So we really should take both 62 and 63 into consideration, and that these are all things that might happen when we do this form, right? I'm just asking, I'm not preferring one or the other, I just want to understand, what are we evaluating?
So I think in terms of the evaluation,
Mhm.
no, I think the evaluation is 20,000 square feet at Pleasant
Is
Street.
that 62?
No, this is 62. 23.6, sorry, we keep doing 26.3, thank you. 23,600 square feet,
Which slide number is it?
62
Okay,
You get that
out of 85. So this is called, from March 27th recalc COA meeting.
Yeah.
.pdf.
no, I'm good, I just don't have. All right,
And again, so that's what we're evaluating.
okay,
If you had a question and said, wow, I wonder why we can't do X, or why we can't do Y, they've given us a few things that we could do.
Right.
And that would be the bump out that was discussed for the porch.
right,
That's one, the kind of restructuring a bit, and this is called area construction over Pleasant Street garage in lieu of gym, which would give you 4,800 additional square feet. That's an additional $3.7 million on top.
okay,
And then we also asked them to just understand what's the gym, gym out, gym in, what's the impact of that, so we could understand what it was. There's also a cost for the parking garage at Pleasant Street. It's broken out. So those kind of, I think those aren't what we're considering, but if you were concerned, hey, I didn't see X, I think the answer is it's here. Just you'd factor that in as an additional cost.
I'm just thinking when we get to suitability, I mean, if we know it could be done on the site, in my mind, that means the
Yeah.
site could, doesn't mean it will, but the site could do all those things.
And likewise, one of the categories is construction costs.
Right,
And so these
Right, that's
numbers
a
would be,
different-
have to be added to that criteria at the same time that you're
Exactly.
adjusting them.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I think that's right.
And we're gonna not look at the two versions of Pleasant Street. I think it's a good idea too.
Oh, great, nice job. And you get to 62. Actually, sorry, 61.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, 61.
All right,
So it's 62 on my slide. There you go.
okay, thank you.
And so, again, just to read it for a second. So it's the cost of the build out without pickleball. Outdoor pickleball. And sorry, one more change. So where it says 26,300 square feet under Oakland Road and Simon's Way, it's incorrect. It's actually 23,600.
Oh, I thought I put up the updated one.
And that's not including the cost of the garage.
Correct.
He PDF'd this, you can't change this, and I don't think he's did an update, did he?
Yeah, he updated it and sent it to me, and then I sent the updated version to Jackie, so maybe he didn't update it again.
I don't know.
So I'll double check that number.
So that's the usual. But not the garage. Oh, that's just for space, okay.
That doesn't
Right.
include the
But-
garage.
but
okay.
These are the As I'm understanding it, these are the
Yes,
three
useful
things that
space.
we're evaluating
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
site point.
Right, so the cost number includes
Includes
the
the
cost of the
garage.
garage. The space doesn't include the space for the garage. Because that
Yes,
wouldn't be
yes,
useful to
yes, yes.
include the space.
Oh, true, true.
I just wanted to understand. Yes.
So I think you're right. So the garage is a breakout cost, meaning it's there, but if you took it out.
All right, but when you were
Down by
talking,
that.
Mark,
Is that
about
what you're saying or no?
the
No,
additional
he
money
says-
for the breakout and for the 4,800, would that be on top of this number
Yes.
then? Okay.
Yes.
So the top line, 27,939. And then below that, it says, space, not including the garage. That, the key there is that it's the space of the garage that's not included, the cost of the garage is in that top number.
Yes,
So just, so you have apples and apples, space where people are, that's 20,000 versus 23,600.
but what you don't have equal then is with the
Just fill it up
26,
with-
120 doesn't include
Sure.
those two additional spaces.
Want me to go to the breakout costs? Or,
The top one.
Oh, yeah, those two spaces, okay. That's like another 5 million.
6 million for the parking garage.
No, but I'm talking about over and above 26 million, you'd have another five something. So it'd be, you're talking about 31 plus. They have their space.
And the additional space for the air constructed over the garage and over the gym.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the 33.67.
Yeah, the 3.6, right?
Don't you have to take off the cost of the gym off the top number? The 27,939.
It is. Oh, you mean up? Yeah. Because that's without the gym is 26.
What's the,
It's already has it without.
what's the question here?
So,
Right.
so in the top slide, we have a number with the gym at 27 and a number without the gym at 26.
Right, because what it's doing is it's taking the gym out and it's adding in the delta space to match the other two sites. So these two lines, cost for build out without pickleball, cost for equalized program area, they're intended to be common assessments at each of the sites. So the first line, the Pleasant Street line item includes a gym, but its program space is actually less than the other two. Whereas Oakland Road and Simon's Way have equal program space and they have the gym. You go down to the second line, they take the gym out of all three, but they add back in 4,800 square feet into the Pleasant Street to equalize the program space. So yes, you lose the gym, but you have to add back in. If you wanted to do that and just take the gym out of Pleasant Street and leave it the way it was, then that would go down probably somewhere in the same range or maybe a little less, but you would only have about what, 13,500 square feet versus the 1,810, something like that.
Yeah, so 6,200 less.
So you would have the equalized program area without the gym is 26. And then you would add the 3.6 if you decided to do the additional.
No, because that 2.6 includes the 4,800 square feet, I believe, but it does not include the additional 8. So in order to so if you go to the next slide, in order to equalize it, that's the construction of the additional I think it's the construction of the additional 4,600 square feet. That's the 3 point, so if you do the math, right? If you take the gym out of Pleasant Street and then you add in the 4,600 square feet, that gets you back to the 26.1. I believe, I could be entirely, I may not be entirely right here. 21,
22.7.
21.7. 24, 25, 30, you know, it's close. There may be some other costs in there as well, but
That's assuming you get that 1,800 bump up, which is not.
I don't believe it is including the 1,800 square feet bump out.
That's there.
Yeah, like if I'm reading this, I would read it as, here's the cost for the build out without pickleball, usable building area with gym, but not including the garage. Okay, I understand that. Then it gives you the second option for all the sites without the gym. But then it gives you the additional cost that it would be to add that 1,800 additional space, right? So you take that this is what I would think, just being me, I would add the 1.4 onto both of those costs. So I would add that onto the Pleasant Street first with the gym, and I would add it in addition to without the gym. So it'd be 1.5 on top of the 27 million
Yes.
and 1.5 on top of the 26 million. That's how I would read it.
I think that's right.
Okay.
But I think maybe very high level for a second here. You have one option. If you want exactly the same square footage in each location without a gym, that's the second line, cost for equalized program area without gym. Okay, but that does not include the garage. It's to get to 18,000 square feet usable area, all three buildings. And not including garage.
Right. So the garage is an additional, you need the garage because the space is not. gonna be-
Right, right.
So I think to John's point, that means that we've brought back some more square footage.
Right.
Instead of the garage,
Okay.
Instead of the
Okay.
gym.
instead of the gym,
Online.
yeah,
Gym.
actually both, actually,
So
that's the gym,
so the garage cost is probably down below.
right, so the
It
garage
is,
cost is down
6
here.
million something.
Yeah, exactly. So now I have to add this.
So then you gotta add the 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
To the 26.
I think it would be great to have Joel just literally say, okay, this is exactly how it works.
Yes.
Each one,
Yes.
precisely,
Yes.
just so we don't have any questions.
Sure.
But I think what we can read is that if you're looking for the same program space at 3 sites, that's the cost for equalized program area without gym. Right, so just said, I don't care about gym, I don't care about parking, I don't care about anything except square footage of usable space, you've got 3 numbers. Then you have another option, which is say, okay, here's kind of how we built out the 3 different options. So it's gonna be build out, no pickleball, but it's gonna include the gym in the 3 sites. At Pleasant Street, that gives you 20,000 square feet total. At Oakland Road and Simons, it's 23,600. And here are the costs, and there's someone. Very
So even the top one does not include the garage.
Yeah, the top one says does not include garage, because I think it's got the gym instead of the second,
What are you talking, which one?
this first one. So usable building area with gym, but not including garage.
It doesn't include the garage space.
Space.
That's
Space.
space.
That's the
It doesn't
cost.
include the
Garage
The
space.
cost, but not the square footage.
Right, it just
Got it. It's
doesn't
not
include
the
the
square
square footage in the
So the cost is there.
calculation, but the
The
cost.
cost is in there.
Cost is
Okay.
there.
Okay. That's confusing. 'cause you would
So
never
this
consider
should just say,
space for
yeah,
the
it'd be
garage.
better even just to say, this is the program space.
That's program space.
Right, be great just to say that.
This is program space. Yes.
Program space, 20,000 at Pleasant Street, 23,600 at the other 2 locations at roughly equal cost. Or take away the gym. Again, I'm not sure what not including garages anymore. I'm gonna say it's program space again, 18,100, 18,100, 18,100. Yeah, oh, no, there you are, go back down.
Look at the other one.
Yeah, one more down, right there, that one. So to get equal space at all 3 locations, no gym involved, those are the estimated costs. So the delta of $4 million.
So this is putting back the program space that we would be giving up for the gym at Pleasant Street or not?
That's the second line item.
That is, so it's back.
It's 4,800 square feet or something like that.
So in a sense, we are still considering that model because we're looking at all.
Well,
this.
it's interesting, looking at this, looking at the criteria again, and again, this is just me. This is all about site selection in many ways, so in some respects, the specific, okay, that's not entirely true. It's not that the specific design or implication isn't the same, but there are some general things that you can assess. I actually do think it is very important for all of us, COA, Recalc, anybody that's involved in this process, to come to the table with specific recommendations and ideas about these other pieces. Because I kind of feel that it isn't, in my mind, going to be a recommendation that's up or down on a particular thing that's been put in front of us, but it may be a little bit of a menu of choices where we say, this is the site, but here's how we want to configure it, and these are the pieces that we include or not include. And I mean, Pleasant Street obviously, I think, is the one that stands out in my mind that has the most potential pluses and minuses. The others, I mean, there's really only one or two other criteria I can think of at the moment that would influence primarily cost and specific of it. But I think it's important that we come prepared to talk about those things as well. I mean, what is included in the site, impacts not just cost, but timing and all sorts of other things too. So I do think we need to take a little bit more time when we think about that and have that conversations amongst ourselves. Because I think that's really the work that has to be done. Filling out the spreadsheet, okay, if you have a concept of an idea of which things you want to work on, okay, you can do that, but it's actually the other sheet. It's actually this other sheet here. That's that's the really one. Well, I gave this one 20 points because X, Y, and Z. And those things kind of flush out, well, this is what I really think we should do, and here's why, and these are the pieces that I would include, and this is what I wouldn't include. And so I think there is going to be a fair amount of discussion that we should plan on having around those pieces.
I agree totally. And going back to what you said, Mark, about what the study showed, and yes, there is interest in an active living center, but the majority of them said that they wanted a senior center. Some want pure and some want it with, but the majority still.
I didn't see the majority said pure. They didn't say that.
No, the combined, it makes a majority. The majority of the respondents either asked for a senior center alone or a senior center with active living center. That's where we get to that. So it's there.
So I think,
It's a very badly worded question.
but we need to be careful also. So there's not a question that it needs to serve the 60+ community. It must, period, end of story. Then we ask people, what's their vision? In that vision, you did have more people that said they had interest in seeing it serve other needs too. Not a majority,
Right, but
but
they
the
were,
largest segment.
but it's two, it's not giving anything up. Right.
We're not taking anything away.
Right, it's very badly worded.
Not taking anything away.
Okay, but that's what this discussion is potentially about, that when we do get to the space, is are we taking some stuff away?
So I guess there's one other takeaway that I get from this too, which is that if it is just an issue of let's get an equal amount of space, we have one site that's gonna cost 25% more to work on.
It all just needs to be considered. I mean, and we need to think
Absolutely.
about the priorities. And going back to John's point, there are a lot of people who want
That's
the senior center.
the priority is space. So I'm hoping you're not saying that the priority is, I'm hoping what you're saying is the priority is that it's a center for active living that accommodates the needs of the age 60+, has potential to accept the growth in that population, and has the potential to work more broadly in the community.
Personally, I'm fine with that. Personally.
So that's a cal.
But,
That's a
but
center for active
accommodates
living.
needs to get defined, and that will come when we get to looking at what does it really mean to get.
Right,
But-
and I
but-
think one of the things that I would find useful in this discussion is what does it mean to have this senior space? How exclusive does it have to
Right.
be? Can you use that space for other things at other times, at any time? And my problem is when I hear this, when I hear of exclusive use for seniors, I think, okay, when the seniors leave the center, they lock the door and that's it, that no one else can ever use that space. And I hear you, and you always shake your head, but I don't that's what exclusive use means.
Right, that's
And
what, you keep on
why
coming back.
we
What I,
have.
what I hear you
we have
saying is
issues.
exactly what Michael is.
I don't say exclusive ever.
No, but people. have
Dedicated.
to- dedicated.
I'm not even saying dedicated.
It's gotta
I
do
think it's
the-
another way to see it, and it's,
But that's,
it
that's
doesn't
just saying that's the same thing as a center for active living. And
I'm just gonna share my screen for this.
in whatever it is, whenever, wherever it happens, when people see their version of whatever the New Pleasantries is called, I don't want them to see that there are fewer options available to them than they
I
currently
think the
have.
best thing to make sure there are more options is to get the most
this is
space
a
we
really
can.
good
Right,
I,
You know, I mean,
slide.
I'm sorry, I just can't see, based on every presentation that we've gone through, just even looking at the stuffs in front of us here, that you're gonna have less space and less options than what you have today in Pleasant Street.
we won't have
If-
less
if
space,
that's-
I'm worried about the options.
I just can't, I can't see
How can you
that
say
being the
that?
case. I'm.
how can you possibly say that?
I'm
I
still
can't-
reacting to
I
the
can't see
diagram,
that being
and again,
the
I'm
case.
reacting to the ones that said you've got 3 dedicated spaces. That's
Well,
what I'm
please,
reacting.
but, you know,
Fine.
that's already been
30 years
explained. You read that wrong.
I think that this is a really good slide too, because it goes back to the UMass gerontology question, and I think it is kind of clear with the results that, you know, you could see the demographics of people, obviously, as you go down, people start to prefer an all ages community center. And there's nothing really, you know, it's kind of
Yeah.
loud and clear there. So if we're getting full community support or full,
And as you go up, the
Buy-in.
older ones, it's a reverse,
right, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
which makes
But there's
perfect
still-
sense.
There's still a good amount of less than about 50% of ages 70 to 79 would like to would prefer an all ages community center. So that's,
I personally prefer one, I
Yes.
just want to understand what it is we're
I think
about.
everybody on this committee
skewed.
from day one said, we're gonna build a nice community center that's gonna service our seniors way better than it ever has before.
As long as that's,
I think everyone here is committed to that, by far.
as long
I'm
as it
afraid to
comes,
say active living center, but yes.
as long as it
Active
comes
living
out
center.
that way, that's fine, and with me, that means it's my opinion.
But I
But I
don't
think.
know why that was questioned.
Yeah, I
I
think-
still don't know why it was questioned, because it was never questioned from us that we were going to create a better center, active living center, that was gonna service the 60+ community better than it ever has, ever.
And again,
That's the goal.
I think it got set off by some of the early diagrams and the 3 rooms
So
are
I think we've been
dedicated.
consistent.
And they even talked about locking the doors.
Sorry,
which
we've been very consistent on this. And I don't know why it's being questioned.
Mike asked me to pull this slide up.
Sean, I'm sorry, but we're getting close to the end.
Yes.
and I need to run too, but can we make sure we have a clear cut set of actions between now and our next meeting?
Okay, we're filling out online. That's what we all
Yep,
committed
and
to
we're
do.
sending them in individually to Jenna.
Send them individually. We have to have a meeting to review that. I think, as far as action steps, not now, but we're talking about recommendation. We will make a recommendation vis-a-vis the gym. Talked about that would be the case. I think we have agreed, it seems like, so I'll put it to the group, that we would want to have something that's both, that comes from Recalc and Council on Aging, as far as a recommendation, hopefully that would go to town meeting and select.
So when is our next?
Right, the other way around, yeah. Select board.
When is our next meeting?
That's what we'd have to.
And just one thing before that, I think what we also asked for was to ask Joel to clarify that slide completely. I think it's the right slide. I think that the words below the numbers
Yeah.
can be clarified so that we're clear. Just everything is, so this is what you get here exactly.
Right.
This is the full space. This is the gym space, whatever you want to call it, but the usable space is what we need. So that first line, everybody says, I know exactly what that is. And the same thing for the second line where it says it's 18,100 for everybody. What does that mean? Love it to say for Pleasant Street, that means you're adding the 4,800 square feet or whatever it is, whatever that is, so that we know what that means. And that's why that cost is different than the other two, because I've added back some square footage. Boom. And then we just take a look at it that way.
Right, but is it also clear that when we're filling this out, we're doing it based on the same number? The top line. Basically the same dollar cost.
That's why he has to
With
the
gym.
He has to simplify it. So
Right,
we can-
but that's, so
I think
does that
that's
mean
what
we wait until we get that clarification before we should fill this out?
I think that should take him 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. And if we could get that quickly, because, yeah,
So do you want him to break it down with the total cost? Like the total cost it would be at Pleasant Street with
Actually,
1,800 additional space.
can I suggest no? One
No.
slide, one up, slide. Previous
because they don't
slide.
know if you can
Okay,
get
I
that.
just want to make sure I.
On this
ask the
slide,
question.
Okay, so in that line that we're looking at cost for build out without pickleball. So right now it says usable building area with gym, but not including garage. Love it to say, Pleasant Street, this is 20,000 square feet. Does not include any additional space that's on the chart below.
Yep, okay.
But that, and again, it's clear, it says, but includes a gym. And then Oakland Road and Simon's Way, I think are fine, but with the right number, 23,600. Then the line below it, cost for equalized program area without gym, it says 18,100 across. Really wanted to say, so for Pleasant Street, here's what that means.
What is that?
So the gym came out, that's minus 4,600 square feet.
55.
4,800 square feet is added back in. And it includes the garage. So we know exactly what's going on. So it's like, okay, so here's what you're talking about moving. You took this out and you put that in. Okay, so we can understand why that number is $26 million. That'll really help.
Okay,
And then the other two, I expect him to say, that is just taking out the gym. All I did is take out the square footage of the gym. I did nothing else. Then we know exactly what each line represents.
Right, but which one are we going to be basing the survey on?
Right, so from, I think it's the top line.
Yeah,
Okay, but if
Yeah.
someone comes back and says, you know what, I would rather see the non-gym version. And from a site perspective, not the insides, but a site perspective, how would I fill out that sheet? I don't think it would be different.
I don't think it's.
right.
I don't think it's different.
Well,
We
that's
just
why-
have to stay on the site.
That's why I commented that I think it is more than just filling out the checklist and doing that. I think everybody does need to consider all the other pieces and understand when they come to have a conversation around the site, how else we want to convey what we may think are the priorities that we would include or not include, which could be impacted by cost, it could be impacted by.
right, but when you say not including garage at Pleasant Street,
That's just-
still parking.
No, it's just, I mean, which is why Mark is asking the question.
No, but I'm talking about location. It does make a difference,
It
location.
does include it includes the
The
part,
words
so,
are bad.
yeah, the words are
I
bad.
think, so what's going on is the words aren't clear. I think it includes the cost of the garage.
Right.
Yeah.
But what it's saying is that 20,000
space,
square
the
feet
space,
doesn't include the 19,000 square feet of garage. space.
Right.
Okay.
That's why it has to be
It's just-
clarified.
It's not clear enough. I think we're all.
I have the
stepping
same
on it.
thing, John, same thing.
Okay, yes.
I do think it's obvious, but yes, it's not clear.
I like that.
It's a late night.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the question again. When are we meeting next?
Okay. Assuming that we do get that quick turnaround and we have that simplified, so everybody's clear exactly what we're filling it out on. And I know that we got town meeting coming up in 3 weeks,
Town meeting is the week of, the first
24th.
Thursday is the 25th.
or 25th, okay.
And we need to be before then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
so the week before, because we're limited because Passover is that week, that's why
Yeah.
town meeting is. All right, so it has to be in 2 weeks.
So Wednesday, the 17th.
It's our butters meeting,
Okay.
but that's okay, you can still meet here and I can meet there.
What do people have available? Is there a select board meeting on the 16th?
There's not.
Can we do Tuesday?
I can join at 7:30. Can't join earlier. We can join at 7:30.
Do any other day.
7:30 on Tuesday, the 16th?
As long as it doesn't go to 10:30.
We'll be done quick.
Well, I have a 9 and a 10, but I can do 7:30 to 9.
I'm good with that.
Okay, 7:30 on,
16. Tuesday.
We could probably do that Zoom. Instead of coming
I think it might be
All
better
of
to
these.
cover both. I think some folks, it'd be easier to sit at the table. But. The question was, can we do it Zoom only? Suggesting we gotta sit down together.
I mean, I think it's gonna be a working meeting across the table. I think I agree. Can we can we do it here?
I think that the council on aging is booked in this room. Let me see if there's another room available.
Oh, burger?
Should this be a joint meeting? I mean, we're looking to have an opinion that's unified between the two groups, right?
we would be here till midnight.
But how do you want us to get to the unified?
I don't think Rick Ellison is ready to have that.
I think it would be a bit unwieldy.
All right, but
But I'm not disagreeing that we don't have to have a conjoined meeting. I'm just saying, I think we need to really get our heads around it first before we have a broader conversation.
We need to be.
So, question, would it make sense for us to try to meet on the 10th instead?
So,
And then maybe have a joint meeting the
so
following?
that's that's a possibility if people,
Next Wednesday.
So have us meet next Wednesday, the 10th. And then have a joint meeting the following week.
I can't be here next week, but you've started the Zoom before, Mark. We have historical commission, so
Oh.
I could come in and give an update when it's over.
That'd be excellent.
Curious.
So as long as someone's okay with I could probably come in and start
You
it.
don't need to commit to start.
Yeah, because I'll be here anyways, though. So I could if you needed me to.
That would be on.
Your meeting is here?
Yeah,
Tenth,
So we can-
right.
there's probably another meeting room available.
And what time?
Anytime I have.
6:30?
I was gonna say,
That's fine. I'm flexible that night.
On the 10th.
6:30 on the 10th?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
I might make the 17th, sure. And the 17th is a shared.
Or the 16th.
16th.
16th at 6:30. Sorry,
7:30.
no.
hopefully it's.
We
We need a
two
different,
meetings,
bigger
right?
room. This is not gonna do it for a joint.
Yeah,
Is
the
Should do it the senior.
we can't because it's not set up for Zoom capability. We can look at the library. We could also look at the select board room. I know that I tried to book a joint meeting in the select board room last time, but conservation had it, but he said that he'd be willing to switch the next time that happened. So I can look into all the rooms tomorrow and try to find a bigger
That
space.
number of people is not conducive to interaction.
Yeah, on the 17th, I booked the abutters meeting there.
Where? Here.
but I think that you guys switched it to the 16th, right? So we're good.
Yeah.
And there's no select board meeting in that room, so we should be able
On
to be
the
in that room.
16th, correct.
Yeah.
10th, 6:30.
Yeah, 10th at 6:30.
16th at 7:30.
And is that a joint meeting?
Yes.
For the
Well,
16th?
Need to
Our
check with
COA
Nancy.
meeting on the 16th already?
Yep, there's already a COA special meeting scheduled on that day.
Perfect.
So that might be
Tuesday?
perfect.
well, it's just to make sure that they're okay. They're okay with making a joint meeting. We can't just.
Need to check with Nancy. Yeah,
Sure.
that's all.
Good. And so what we want to be able to do is get as quickly as we can from
I get the
Joel
surveys done.
tomorrow. Yeah, if we can get his clarifications, that would be great.
Okay.
And then can do the surveys.
Want those by the 10th, you said?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And did you want me, obviously, we could fix number 6, that'll be pretty easy. But did you want more clarification on the operational costs too before I,
The one with
Everyone
the
does it?
insurance and.
Yeah.
everything.
or are you just,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
okay
not
with just
sure.
moving with it?
Do we know what the differentiation would be? It's almost like, use tendency would be or something like that, just give everybody the same if I don't know.
Correct, but how about if we ask Joel the same thing?
Yes.
Are there things that we need to understand about the sites that would
Those costs.
Yeah.
be different, one site versus another?
Yeah, cause I think it would be the parking garage would be the garage repairs,
Yes,
maintenance of a parking garage, like those are the things that I could think of offhand.
right, but that's ongoing.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is where things are kind of locked, then tell us what it is.
Sure.
And then it may have higher or lesser importance to us for one reason or another, but that's fine, that's for us.
Okay, great, so I'll just ask for clarification.
Why
and
would
send-
insurance be varied? I'm not saying it wouldn't, but why would it vary from one location to another?
I don't know if it's different, close to a gun range, I have no idea.
No, that's why
It could be close to fire, police.
I thought it's, close to wetlands might have been
Higher
one part of that,
Yeah.
or whatever, at least that.
So that would be good feedback also, just on any of those where there are kind of expert information that would clarify the differences.
Sure.
To share that.
One more question about process. My understanding, we unfortunately had 2 canceled COA meetings this week, so Monday, we're going to end up doing just what you guys have been doing tonight, exactly. And my understanding was this is essentially, we're testing the form. It's a fake thing, is what I was told, right? But is that what we're doing, or are we actually making a decision,
Yeah,
Well, no, not making a decision,
a recommendation?
but not, well, the
We're
form is
collecting
not,
forms.
the form is not gonna make the recommendation. I think that's what we clarified earlier.
All right, but whatever we fill out on these forms, the assumption is that is gonna be what Joel's gonna work with to make his recommendation?
No,
No.
no,
What's going to town meeting out of this? I'm just trying to understand what.
nothing from those
Nothing.
forms directly. It's gonna inform us,
Okay,
Where we're at.
our discussion, so that, yes, then
okay,
We're collecting input, and I think one of the hopes would be that if we see differences in certain things,
right,
that's the impetus for discussion.
okay,
yes.
that makes sense.
And further, back to John's point from before, folks, you need to come together on this, or else nothing's gonna happen. And I would hate to see that be the case. That would be a shame.
I think everybody,
So we need to figure this out. Whatever it is, we need to figure it out.
absolutely, and more meetings together, you'll just save a lot of time and get things we discussed here that others haven't even heard yet, so we're gonna have to backtrack, which maybe it has to happen, but.
Well, it
personally,
probably is
I'd
gonna
say
be
more
at
stuff
joint
would be
meetings.
better.
I think we'd have to more limit participation from people who are non-members, just because they weren't privy to the
Right,
discussions, they'd be
right,
repeating things.
right,
Not that people can't ask questions,
right,
not saying that,
right.
but it's gonna be a more limited thing than what we would do when we have a.
Can I suggest too, I think it would be very important for each of the groups and others that might be involved to find a way to go forward in the discussion. If we go backward, Recalc disappears in June, and I fear that this project could disappear. I suggest strongly, each group find a way to get forward, to move ahead somehow,
And
whatever that means, whatever that takes. We need to find that and come to agreement. If we don't do that and we come together into a big room, I can't say the word that comes to mind, but it won't go well.
I'm just saying, the more we're together, we have a clue what the other one's thinking and it could be more
I
efficient.
think we already are hearing that, but I think that
All right.
it feels to me like at the moment, the groups aren't feeling the same thing. That I
That's
think
possible.
Ron kind of talked about some stuff that I would agree with. I guess as many in the room would. I think the COA needs to do the same thing. And we need to find a way where there's enough commonality in that we're gonna get to a point where we say, this is what we want to do.
So I would hope that the first steps would be location and amount of space.
Yeah.
You know, if we can't agree on
Yeah.
on those, then I don't see how we, you know, the other things.
Yeah, so can I just say, so timelines, so this group right now expires June 30th, it sunsets. If we are able to move everything ahead, which is our plan and goal, at some point, the select board would take the recommendation, ask for more, come to some point where they agree on something, and go and say, permanent building committee, it's time to form a building committee. It's time to take this forward. And to be clear, that building committee is comprised of all of the current members of the permanent building committee and probably 1 to 2 total other people. That's how it works with the schools. That's how it's worked with all the other projects that have been successful in the town. So it's not a big gathering. Of course, anybody can attend. There's no issue with that. But in terms of voting members, it's a very, very narrow group. Probably a couple of sponsoring agencies stop. We need to get there. We need to have a project to take there. One project that we are seeing closely enough together that it's like, this will be great. Let's do it. And then we have to do the hard part, which is to convince town meeting in the town that they should do it too.
Fair enough.
Motion, let's say a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I just want to say, that was the update on recalc sunsetting
Yes.
on June, okay. Because that was on the agenda.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I took that as the, yeah.
All right.
All in favor? Okay. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, folks.
Oh, Jenny,